WRVA, the voice of freedom.
Learn it here first or risk finding out after everyone else.
This is Richmond's Morning News with Richard. All right. Text messages rolling in right now. Dr. Fauci is going to testify before the Senate today, a Senate panel, Senate hearing led by Rand Paul. Now, he and Rand Paul have been adversaries for the longest time. And I get it because Rand Paul knows how to get underneath people's skin. He does that with conservatives quite a bit. He does that with the president quite a bit. And he is a dog with a bone right now when it comes to Anthony Fauci and the COVID pandemic and the masking and the origins. And he has been on this for a long time. So here's what's going on, just for those of you that are just tuning in this morning. Fauci's has been subpoenaed to come before this committee that he's testified at in the past. Now, what's changed? Couple things. Anthony Fauci has got a pardon from Joe Biden that pardons him for the job that he did and the acts that he did and everything he did during COVID. He has a pardon, presidential pardon, and can't be prosecuted for any of that. Now, he's testified before the Senate, before Congress. So anything he said back then can't be held against him. Anything he's done can't be held against him. But Rand Paul wants to know, what did you know and when did you know it? So they're bringing him back before the Senate. Now, here's what's changed. In the subpoena that this committee has, they got a hold of Dr. Fauci's diaries. Dr. Fauci's diaries are not too flattering when it comes to where his head was during this. It shows someone who became kind of enamored with his own press clippings, talking about, I'm this, I'm that. And you kind of see through his diary how the constant attention and how his ego grew during all of this. And you really see the double standard for the guy that said, hey, we have to lock ourselves down. We have to shut down our society. We're flattening the curve. And then we're going to be 6 feet apart. We have to double mask, all the stuff that we did during COVID. And then you see someone who's, having dinner with Jake Tapper, who's saying one thing and writing another. So now he's going to go before Congress and he's going to be asked questions. Now, whatever he says cannot be used against him because he's got that piece of paper from Joe Biden. But if he turns around and he lies today when they put him on the stand and they say, hey, Dr. Fauci, you said that this did not come from the Wuhan viral lab in Wuhan, China. You said it came from the wet market. In your diary, you wrote that the wet market was an amplifier, meaning it was in Wuhan, got to the wet market, and that's where it spread. What's the truth? If he lies now before Congress, then he can be held accountable. So does Dr. Fauci take the fifth and say, I'm going to plead the fifth and won't answer your question? Or does he answer truthfully? Or does he continue with some of the things that he told Congress, which turns out might not have been completely candid? So the question I have for you, doesn't it just seem so long ago, folks? I mean, it seems like a lifetime ago that we were wearing masks. I found a mask the other day, Super Dave, and I just looked at that thing. I'm like, I can't believe I walked around wearing that stupid mask for so long. I hated those masks. I hated those masks. But I remember in the very, very beginning, I have a fraternity. Well, he's not, let's see, how do I say it? My little sister in the fraternity, she had a niece that lived in San Diego because that's where we were during COVID. And sweetest kid in the whole wide world. She started making masks when we started running out of the big industrial masks. And I remember desperately wanting one and getting one from her. And then I put it on. I'm like, oh my God, this thing sucks. Because she had taken the mask and then she put a washcloth inside the mask. I could barely breathe. I'm like, how are we going to live with this? And we lived with that for so long. I mean, think about this. What life was like during COVID. It seems like a movie, and I'm not sure if I've got such bad memories of it. I try not to think about it because it was a horror movie. There were literally times where you thought you were in a horror movie. And it started with, hey, listen, I'm an American. When we're up against it, we all come together. You remember people like, what do we need? Do we go donate blood? No, they don't need blood. You're supposed to stay home. Okay, I could do that. I'll stay home for a couple of days. We'll stay home for a week and we'll flatten the curve and we'll all pitch in as an American. Dave, do you remember when we didn't have enough respirators, right? Oh, this is awful. We don't have enough respirators. We're all going to die. And there were companies that said, I will make you respirators. I remember those companies changing everything they did just to make sure that they had emergency respirators for everybody. Refrigerated trucks. Right. Right. So we all rallied around each other. And you remember they put trucks out. They brought refrigerated trucks because they said so many people are going to die. We don't know what we're going to do. And then all of a sudden we're all rallying around and like, okay, what's going on? And now I think about it. Was any of that necessary? I lost my job. I right. Right. You remember all these things that we went through, wearing the masks, the 6-foot rule. But I ended up losing my job. My wife lost her job. We lost all of our savings because we used all that just to survive. I remember my son was at school and I remember how scary it was because they were shutting everything down and he ended up getting the last flight out of town to come back to San Diego. Otherwise he was going to get stuck over there. We don't know. I mean, it was literally like a horror movie. I remember going through and they had the big Quonset huts set up and they did the drive-through. They did the drive-through vaccines where you, right, right, to get tested. I had COVID. I got it twice. I caught it twice. I caught the very first version of it in 2019. So I caught it in December. Everything shut down in March, right, of 2020. I had COVID 2019. I caught it flying cross country to my father-in-law's funeral. I didn't know I had it. And I was down for like 2.5 weeks, couldn't get up, went to the doctor, couldn't figure out what it was. He just said, just go home and rest. And then finally, when I recovered a week later, I had a heart attack. And the COVID had caused my organs to expand and it caused me to have a heart attack, became severe diabetic and just ruined me for a couple of years. And finally, I'm back up on my feet. But it was serious stuff. And it was scary at the time. And Dr. Fauci led all of this. And I hate to bring all this up to you on an early morning, especially before 7 a.m., because I do have flashbacks, and it was like a horror movie. It was like a horror movie that you see when there's mass unrest, and you saw all of that going on. Dr. Fauci was was really leading this. So there's so much I want to know, I want asked, because we were prevented from asking or questioning any of this. So my question for you this morning is at 833-804-1140. We'll get to whether Fauci's a villain or a hero, but I would like to hear from you this morning. What question do you want to have asked of Dr. Fauci? Number one, first and foremost, more than anything else, I want to know where this came from. I want to know, was it the wet market in Wuhan, or did it escape from that Chinese laboratory? That's what I want to know. Just simply because you changed the entire trajectory of my life and so many others, I think we deserve to know where this came from. I think we deserve to know where this came from because the world changed and you helped change it, Dr. Fauci. That's a lot to put on you, but you put yourself in that position. Where did this come from? I think the American people deserve and have the right to know. I think more than anything else, I want to know where it came from. What do you want to know? What do you want asked? What do you want him to tell us today when he goes before Rand Paul's committee? 833-804-1140. 833-804-1140. A lot of the other stuff, who made up the 6-foot rule, who decided we all have to wear masks, who said we're going to shut down the schools. He was responsible for a lot of that. But more than anything else, I want to know where this came from. I want to know what caused my entire life to be upended. And it cost so many of us so many things. That's what I want to know. 833-804-1140. All right, we'll continue with you. I'll read your text message. Best one's coming up at 6:55, 7:55, at 8:55, and then 9:33. We'll have the experiment. All right, let me remind everybody today's